talking about people that are receiving a lot of hype right now, Deion Sanders, we all know what he's accomplished before, but he brings the hype everywhere he goes. I want to play you this audio here. This is Deion Sanders. I guess there was a fight in practice, and Deion Sanders was not thrilled with some of the guys on the team, I guess, walking away from the fight. Listen up. Here's Coach Prime.
I seen two of y'all walking off over there, and you got to keep teammate fighting. What they do there?
Nowhere.
What they do there?
Not here.
In one fight, we all fight. You understand that?
No, sir.
I don't want to see y'all walking off when somebody's fight.
Yes, sir.
Never again.
So two things stand out to me there. That does sound very college-like in one breath. Where, I was in a fraternity, right? When you're pledging the fraternity, if one person messes up, you all mess up. It's kind of one of those things when you're trying to formulate a team and you're trying to build some synergy and some chemistry with the team. But then in the next breath, I feel like fighting in practice is more kind of the norm in the NFL, but I don't feel as if a lot of fights happen in college. Maybe it's because college kind of training camps are more secretive and you don't see much of them. Some of the camps I go to, the late you watch the last 10 or 15 minutes of practice, where for NFL training camps, there's enough open days or days where you get to see the majority of practices. And now a lot of teams, they only let you record the practices for 15 minutes. And they tell you, okay, you can't live tweet or you can't post any videos out from the practice. So what did you guys make of that? Because part of me goes, it's really no big deal. You know what Deion's doing. He's trying to, with all these different guys that they've brought in, right? As he's saying, he's bringing new luggage. He's bringing his own Louis Vuittons and things like that. He's trying to set a standard for a team that only had one win a year ago and, is in football purgatory, and trying to bring them to a much better spot and quickly change the reputation and the results. But then it's like, you're advocating once one guy throws a punch at another that all of a sudden it needs to be basically a bar fight at your practice is pretty much what you want to see.
Yeah, I don't love the idea of if one guy fights, we all fight. I get the idea of protect your brothers, but when you're fighting against your brothers, you don't want the other brothers to join in and all get into a melee, right?
For some reason, all I got to when you were when you talked about protect are the old Under Armour commercials, the click clack. We must protect this house. That's all I can envision. It's just Deion Sanders at practice. One guy throws a fight. We must protect this house. Everyone fight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's make that happen, right? Next, I want to see Deion jumping in, right? If the players are fighting, the coaches have to be fighting. That's his new mantra.
Yeah, and especially with some of the serious foot surgeries that Deion Sanders has had lately, I don't think that would be the best idea for Deion Sanders to be fighting. Is he still walking around on that scooter? Because that would make it even funnier if he's at practice on the scooter saying, you must fight, you must fight, you must fight, kind of like Oprah at Christmas time. You get a present, you get a present, you get a fight, you get a fight, you get a fight, you get a fight. If they were a hockey team, the entire team would be in the penalty box.
Love it.
So what are your expectations, Colorado, year one?
So for me, the expectations, it's not as much what I think the expectations are, but what I think Deion can get away with, right? So they won, 2-3 games last year?
One game.
And so, you say, all right, if they win 2 or 3, that's a marketed improvement. However, it's Deion Sanders, and because of this kind of bluster, right? If one fights, we all fight. Let's get rid of the scrubs. Let's bring in this whole thing. Let's wipe it all out and bring in my guys. My son. We have the number 1 recruit from 2 years ago. He's building up an expectation himself. Whereas if they don't win 6 or 7 games this year, I don't care how good or bad they are. Ooh. If they don't win 6 or 7 games this year, we're going to look at Deion as being a failure. I don't care how bad they were last year.
I'm sorry, that's a hot take. That is a hot take. That is a scorching hot take.
You're telling me if they win 5 games this year, you'd be like, Deion did a good job.
Honestly, that was my number. If they get to 5 names, I'd be really impressed, and here's why. I understand you have a son, Shedeur Sanders, now. You also have Travis Hunter, who was the player that you were talking about. But you look at that team, you are starting right back over. And I know we brought in some big names. Not everyone is TCU. Even Sonny Dykes told me last year when they started off 4-0, 5-0, he was surprised they got off to that start. Usually year ones are messy. Now, can it be a little bit easier now in year one because of NIL and transfer portals and things like that? Sure. They're going to be better than what they are a year ago. They only had one win. You can't get worse. They're not going to not win a game this entire season. But you got to remember, they are playing in one of the tougher conferences this year. The Pac-12, in their final year before they go back to the Big 12, it is a gauntlet this year. And you look at that schedule, their first two games are TCU and Nebraska, right? TCU is an unknown, even though they were in the national championship game last year because they lost so much. You still think that TCU is going to be better than a team that only won one game last year. Nebraska, Matt Rule has been around the block a lot. And my alma mater, Temple, Baylor, I know he was not a good head coach in the NFL, but the guy has been wonderful in college, turning around two messy situations. If they could win one of those first two games, I think that would be impressive. But then after that, you have Colorado State, cupcake game. So there's one win for starters. Oregon with Bo Nix, very tough. USC with Caleb Williams, very tough. Arizona State, winnable game. Stanford, winnable game. UCLA, I know Chip Kelly is so experienced. No more Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We'll see if that's a winnable game. Oregon State's supposed to be good this year. Arizona, winnable game. Washington State, tough opponent, especially at Washington State. Utah, they've won the Pac-12 the last 2 years. So you go on that schedule, and it's not even locks in some of those winnable games. Colorado State's your one lock. After that, TCU, Nebraska, if you get one, I think that's a good thing. But then you go to that stretch of Arizona State, Stanford, UCLA, forget Oregon State, and then you have Arizona State. You got to find a way, if they're going to have a really successful season, even come close to any number 6 or 7 wins, you got to win 3 out of those 4 games against Arizona State, Stanford, or Arizona, and then UCLA when you go through that. And I think the schedule in the conference is going to make it really tough, where if they get 4, I'm okay with it. If they get 5, I think it's a big success, even though they're not going to be above 500.